Imagine a seasoned construction company in the heart of Mumbai that has spent 30 years building bridges. Every project starts with a massive 200-page paper plan, months of rigid approval cycles, and a team structure where nobody talks to the engineers until the concrete is already dry. This is a classic waterfall team. When we talk about transforming them into a disciplined agile team, we aren't just changing their meeting schedule, we are fundamentally changing how they view risk. In the DASM world, the waterfall model is defined as a linear, sequential approach where you must finish one phase, like requirements, before you even think about starting the next, like design. In simple terms, it's like trying to bake a cake where you aren't allowed to taste the batter until the oven timer rings after an hour. If you realize you forgot the sugar at the very end, it's too late. The transformation starts when we stop treating the project like a fixed, unmovable statue and start treating it like a living organism that needs to breathe and grow. Transitioning a team like this isn't about throwing out their experience, it's about breaking the obsession with perfect predictability. So, now that we've mastered the realization that the waterfall mindset is the biggest hurdle to agility, you might be wondering how we convince a team of 30-year veterans to stop clinging to those massive, dusty project plans. Well, that brings us right into our next step, the shift from project phases to incremental value delivery. Think about that same bridge building team. They are used to delivering the entire project at the very end. But what if we told them to build just one small section of the pedestrian walkway first? That is the essence of incremental delivery. Technically, we define this as the practice of releasing working, tested portions of a solution to stakeholders throughout the lifecycle rather than in one giant nerve-wracking finale. Simply put, it means showing off your work while it's still in progress. You've probably seen this at the office where a team works for months and then on the launch day, everyone holds their breath hoping it works. That is high stakes gambling. In a DA team, we replace that stress with constant low stakes releases. When you deliver small working pieces, you get immediate feedback. If the stakeholders say the design is wrong, you only have to redo a small section instead of the entire bridge. It transforms a team from a group of people waiting for a disaster to a group of people building confidence, one small win at a time. So now that we've mastered the shift from massive delivery to small incremental wins, you might be wondering how we manage the roles of the people who are used to being told exactly what to do from the top down. Well, that brings us right into our next step, the evolution of team roles and servant leadership. In that waterfall bridge firm, there was always one project manager who sat in a corner office and directed traffic. Every single question had to go through them, and the team members were just cogs in a machine waiting for their specific orders. Transforming to DA requires us to turn that model upside down. We move from a command and control structure to a servant leader model. The book's definition of servant leadership is a philosophy where the leader's primary goal is to support the team by removing obstacles and facilitating work rather than exercising authority. In simple terms, you stop being the boss and start being the obstacle remover. If a developer is stuck because a server is down, you don't tell them to work harder. You jump in and get that server back online. When you remove the barriers, the team gains the power to make its own decisions. You start seeing people who used to be silent suddenly speaking up, taking ownership, and solving problems before you even know they exist. So, now that we've mastered the transition from a boss-driven team to an empowered autonomous group, you might be wondering how we handle the technical side of things when the team is no longer allowed to work in its isolated silos. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is breaking down the walls between technical disciplines. Picture the bridge project again. The architects, the structural engineers, and the safety inspectors each had their own separate offices and only talked through formal written memos. This silo mentality is the death of speed. In a DA team, we force a different reality. We bring them into a war room or a shared digital space where they have to communicate daily. The technical term is cross-functional collaboration. It means having all the skills necessary to deliver the work present within the team. Put simply, it's getting everyone into the same room so they can talk. You've probably seen this at the office. the developers think the design is impossible, and the designers think the developers are lazy, simply because they never actually talk to each other. When you put them together, they stop blaming each other and start solving problems together. It's not always comfortable at first. There will be debates, but that friction is exactly where the best solutions are born. It changes the team from a group of individuals protecting their own turf into a unified force working toward a single goal. So now that we've mastered the art of cross-functional collaboration, you might be wondering how we ensure this new fast-paced approach doesn't lead to a total decline in technical quality. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is the integration of high-quality automated testing. Imagine our bridge builders finally get the design right, but because they are moving faster now, they start skipping the safety checks on the materials, hoping to quote-unquote fix it later. That is a recipe for catastrophe. In a DA transformation, we don't trade speed for quality. We use technology to make quality inevitable. We use continuous integration and automated testing. By definition, this is the practice of running automated tests every single time a piece of work is created, ensuring that errors are caught within seconds, not weeks. In simple language, it's like having an invisible safety inspector standing over your shoulder 24/7. It catches those silly mistakes that cost hours. When the team doesn't have to manually check their work for the 100th time, they gain the freedom to focus on real innovation. They start trusting their own code, their own designs, and their own process because they know the quote-unquote safety net is always on. It's the difference between driving on a dark road with no lights and driving on a brightly lit highway. So, now that we have mastered how to maintain elite quality through automation, you might be wondering what happens when we need to scale this successful experiment to the rest of the company. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is the path toward enterprise agility. Finally, our bridge team has become a shining example of success. Other teams in the company start walking by, looking in and asking, "How are you getting so much done?" This is how we scale. We don't force a one-size-fits-all framework on the whole company. Instead, we use guided continuous improvement, where each team takes the lessons we learned and experiments with them in their own unique environment. Scaling, in the DA context, is the process of applying agile principles across an entire organization by allowing each part of the business to adapt the practices to its specific reality. Simply put, it's teaching others how to fish, rather than just giving them your leftover fish. You aren't building a cult of the right way. You are building a culture of constant intelligent growth. By the time you reach this stage, the team is no longer just a transformed team. They are a team of coaches and pioneers who understand that the journey of improvement never truly ends. You have seen how we move from rigid silos to fluid collaboration, how we trade boss-centered control for team-centered empowerment, and how we turn quality from a final inspection into a daily habit. You are now equipped to take any project, no matter how stuck it feels in the past, and turn it into a beacon of modern agile efficiency.